has arrived and the work of another day demands our attention. Let each prepare to his or her allotted station. Worthy Vice President, who I don't see, are all, there you are. Worthy Vice President, are all present correct?
They are, worthy President.
Worthy Steward, are the gates properly guarded?
They are, worthy President.
Worthy Steward, inform the gatekeeper we are preparing for work.
With the gatekeeper, the worthy President directs me to inform you we're preparing for work in the 4th degree.
And Carol?
I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
I therefore close this outer gate in faith and hope and charity and will guard it with fidelity.
I therefore close this gate with hope, faith, hope, and guard it with fidelity.
Very good. Right, worthy gatekeeper. And let's see, do we have a worthy chaplain? No.
He's not, no.
Sue, do you have your book or not? Or otherwise I'll do it. Okay. Right, worthy gatekeeper. And now, worthy chaplain, as laborers under the great master of the universe, let us bow in prayer. Almighty Father, maker of heaven and earth and giver of all good, we return our heartfelt thanks that we are permitted again to meet each other here for work in this glorious cause. Endow us with prudence and wisdom in our counsels as a body, that our work may be good and acceptable in thy sight, and that our labors may be blessed with a liberal harvest. And when we are called to lay down our implements on earth, may we enter that paradise not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, and receive that welcome plaudit. Well done, good and faithful servants. We beseech thee to bless the officers and members of this Grange and all connected with the order from the highest to the lowest degree, and grant them prosperity. We ask all in thy holy name. Amen. Worthy Steward, please close the inner gate.
Close this inner gate in faith, hope, and charity, and I will guard it with fidelity.
Now, if you'll all assist with a salutation, it signifies that a patron places faith in God, nurtures hope, dispenses charity, and is noted for fidelity. This Grange is now open in ample form in the 4th degree. Worthy Vice President, please proclaim it accordingly.
The thing to do is check your tires. You need to make sure you have enough tread.
I don't have my book in front of me. I'm sorry.
By command of the worthy President, I proclaim this Grange open in ample form for promoting the welfare of our country and of mankind, for advancing the interest, elevating the characters, and increasing the influence of all patrons of husbandry by properly transacting our business and exemplifying our principles in faith, in hope, in charity, and with fidelity. This Grange is now open in the 4th degree. I want to welcome everybody to our virtual anniversary program. This is not going to take place of our in-person anniversary birthday program later on in the spring that we're going to be chatting about in a little bit. But this is the 116th anniversary of Riverton Grange, which is just phenomenal when you think about that. Worthy Secretary Judy, would you take the roll call of officers, please? You're muted, Judy.
Okay. President Dave Roberts.
Present.
Vice President Rod Ansett.
Present.
Lecturer Rain Pedersen.
Yep, here. Yes.
Stewart Bob O'Connor.
Present, I'm here.
Assistant Stewart Dawn Ansett.
Present.
Lady Assistant Stewart Stuart Belisle.
Present.
Chaplain Shirley Moore.
Chaplain is Sharon Russell.
Yeah.
Sue,
Oh.
Shirley fills in time to time, which we
Oh,
so
that's
appreciate.
why. I was reading it off the last minute.
Yeah, no.
Treasurer Tilly Jackson.
Absent.
Secretary Judy Doyle, present. Gatekeeper Tim Sweeney.
No, gatekeeper is Carol
Oh, but
Innes.
he was pro temp. Sorry.
Carol Innes present.
Carol, right? Yep. Series Natalie Roberts.
She's present.
Present.
Thank you, Natalie.
Pomona Laura Nope, Laura's not here.
No.
Flora Jackie Martin. Is Jackie here? No. Okay. An executive committee, Sue. Oh no.
Yep.
Do them again. Yeah. Okay. Sue
I'm
Bell,
here.
aye. George Russell.
Present.
And is Dennis here?
No.
No. Okay.
Thank you, worthy secretary. And our pianist is not here either because we don't have a piano here. The last minutes, which we so appreciate Dawn taking,
Thank you.
and we sent them out. There was one piece missing that Judy is adding, that was the treasurer's report. But otherwise, you should have all gotten the meeting minutes. Is there any feedback? Hearing none, with the treasurer's report being added to the meeting minutes from the email. Tilly does not Zoom. We had a long talk about that again today. And but she has submitted her report again to Judy and myself, and we will make sure that gets added at the appropriate point in the last month meeting minutes. So I'm going to deem those meeting minutes approved. Worthy secretary, do we have any proposals for membership? I'll take that mouth as a no. Okay. Now, Dawn, you said you want to wait till later to do heirloom?
Yeah, because I think because it would explain a little bit about our, covering where it's coming from to anybody coming in. So why don't we wait?
Okay. Standing committees, if you have one and want to give a report, just raise your hand. I'll go first with community service. As I hope you all heard, we have canceled our flag Veteran of the Month ceremony this Sunday because of the pending snowstorm. We are working with Commander Sweeney, who is here, on finding a new date. The proposal is just to move everybody 1 month forward, and we would not have one in January. So we're trying to figure that out. So under community service, that will be our 29th Veteran of the Month ceremony. So with that, anybody else have a committee report? Phil?
Well, I just want to report that the Connecticut legislature will be going into session next month, the first Wednesday of February. And it's the short session. I always joke that the only difference between the short and the long session is they do the same amount of work in 2 and 3 months that they usually do in 5 months. But it's supposed to be geared towards budget, but I have a feeling there'll be a lot of other issues coming up. Also, we had a change of first selectman in the town of Barkhamsted as of January 1st. And I think we as a Grange should probably send a note to Don Stein, thanking him for his service as first selectman in the town. I would ask that, maybe if you want me to bring that up under new business, I will. If not, we could just ask the secretary just to send a note thanking him.
Very, very good. Two points. One on Don Stein. We are going to be doing thank you, Don Stein and Linda Stein luncheon in February. And it would be nice, Judy. I like Phil's idea that the Grange might present him a little proclamation or something. We're going to ask community groups if they want to do anything. This will be at the senior center during one of their Tuesday lunches. We're working with Linda on the menu based on Don's, menu choices. So that was the first item. Second item
When is it again? Oh, when was it again? Did you say?
It's going to be, the date has not been confirmed. We're looking at the Tuesday after Valentine's Day, which is the 20th, but we want to make sure that a majority of the people we want there can be there. But that's the date we're looking at. Thank you, Don and Linda Stein. Second thing, based on Phil's comments, on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, 2 of our Grange members, Julie Sullivan and I, are meeting with the full board of selectmen They want to talk predominantly about senior issues, but they also want to hear about some of the Grange activities that we do at the senior center. So we're kind of excited about that. And they have actually had to agendize us since all three are going to be present. So two of the three being new this year. So I'll keep you posted if anything comes up, but the first selectman came to breakfast, and he's the one that first suggested that we cancel Sunday night's event. And so I think it was a good call, because they say the roads are going to be really bad. Okay, any other committee reports or special committee reports? Seeing no hands. I just want to mention to Dawn, I did bring in most of the outside stuff because I didn't want it to get plowed over at the Grange Hall. So
Okay, that's good.
it's in the kitchen. So I just wanted you to know about that. And I think outside we're in pretty good shape for the upcoming storm. Report of Grange services, Worthy Secretary.
You mean services like, wait,
It's usually like the insurance or anything.
oh, I don't have, well,
You can just say no report.
no report. I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay, communications received, Worthy Secretary.
We got our annual word
Oh,
in the mail.
You got a piece of it, and I got
I got a piece of it. Right?
and I got a piece of it, and I put the pieces together, and we figured it out. We ourselves are not a word-taking Grange, but if you would like me to privately communicate the word, if you need it for a higher level activity, just give me a call till we're back together in person again. And then at our March meeting, I will privately, for the in-person people, I'll privately communicate that to you. And for the people that are Zooming, I'll just make sure we, chat on the phone or something. Okay?
We submitted our quarterly report. We got it back. We're all done with that. So that went through. Let's see. I sent out the newsletter, or not, the annual dues by email. I made my list. I have 29 individual letters that I need to send out to families. And then I sent out 34 emails to members for the membership dues. So that's what I have so far.
Okay. Worthy Lecturer, do you have any communications?
No, nothing. No communications.
Okay. We got a really nice thank you letter from the Pleasant Valley Community Food Bank, thanking us for the activities that Dawn led in December. Also thanking us for the donations we're giving through our Project Amazon. Prior to the start of this meeting, I mentioned that we got another shipment through the Lions to the Grange Hall last night, and we've been divvying those out to groups. I want to thank the Sweeneys and a few other Grange families that have been very helpful. Judy actually leads this project for our district in Lions, and so she's also helping leading it for Grange, which is great. So I appreciate that. We also got from the state secretary our Journal of Proceedings and our official directory for 2024. So we have both those documents that just came this week. So those were all my communications.
Yes, sorry, I forgot. That's exactly, we got those. I just got those as well. Sorry, I got them yesterday and I totally forgot about them, but we did get them for everybody.
Perfect. Okay. Have reports to Pomona and State Granges been duly and promptly made, Worthy Lecturer?
Yes,
So
they have.
Oh.
Yes. Okay.
Worthy Secretary?
I was gonna say I'm waiting on the Pomona to do everybody's dues back so I can see who's Pomona and who's not. So
Okay. Okay, bills and accounts.
oh yeah, hold on. So we had for income last month we had $348.96. Do you guys want me to break it down individually or do you just want me to email it?
Email it.
Okay.
But basically it was dues payments, it was our DMP dividend, and it was a donation in memory of Mark Frelly. So it all totaled $348.96.
And then we have two expenses, Spectrum and Eversource for $192.58. And that was it.
And Tilly asked me to clarify that it wasn't clear, she didn't feel in the dues letter that family, quote unquote, in Grange has a specific definition, and very few people actually qualify for a family. It's not like a husband and wife. It's like a husband, wife, and a dependent child or a dependent. So an example would be I have a spouse and I have children under age 22, so they would qualify as a family unit. Otherwise, the husband pays $40 and the wife pays. Any questions on that?
It also includes a single person with a dependent. I
Yep.
did check with Todd on that one.
Yep. So it's an adult and a dependent person. Yes. Yep. Okay. So that was the income side, and then the expense side, Judy.
Oh, again, it was Spectrum and Eversource, and it was a total of $192.58.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. All right. Unfinished business. I think first we have last month, we had sent to the executive committee, and I saw Sue is starting to work on that. Thank you, Sue. But we want to do the anniversary birthday event in person.
Well, my email went out to the ones that were on that email to begin with. And it did say family activities and community service. So the ones that suggested it or were most interested in doing it, we just have to send me a proposal, and George and Denny, well, at least me and George, about what they think will happen at both.
Okay.
The,
So let's
one was the anniversary dinner, the other Maker Sundays that they were talking about.
Right. Right. So for the Maker Sunday, that was community service, family activities have to bring that proposal to the executive committee. So those two committees are chaired by Judy Doyle, family activities, and I'm community service. So we will bring you, Dawn has been giving input on what she's proposing since it was her idea. The second thing, the anniversary dinner, that was not to community service or to family activities. That was just
There was two family activities and the executive committee.
Right.
So I'm great. I'm good with a party.
Well, I'll tell you, I am not the cook, so I'm not going to worry about what's in the kitchen. I'm still concerned about the oven, the stove. If we don't have to use it, then I don't have a problem with it. But that's what I'm concerned about, because I know in years gone by, people would bring hot things and need to keep them warmed up or rewarm them in the oven. And you weren't here, Judy, last month. But I thought we had talked about shutting off that oven, making sure it was no gas was going into it.
So we originally talked about turning it off, and then because the regulations had changed, Dave had talked to the fire department, or it was the fire department, right? And they had corrected what he had said, so we had decided to look into just getting an emergency shut off, or getting a shut off valve put on.
Yeah.
And so I'm not, I'll check with Tilly to see where we are in getting the shut off valve put on.
Okay.
I know she uses the same guy I do. I can't think of his name.
Cleby?
What?
Is it Cleby?
No, Chris. Who's
Jasmine.
our gas guy? Yeah, the guy that fixed our boiler.
Oh, jeez.
Carlson, Richard Carlson.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, Chris is getting credit now for attendance, Judy. He's here. I need as many men as I can get. There he is. Hi, Chris. You're a member. I know you're a member.
Yes.
She tried to
Okay.
get me to attend tonight, but I'm just too busy. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're here. You're here.
Oh,
you're
no,
here.
no. Yeah, Rich
Again,
Carlson, he's a good plumber.
Yeah. No, Chris Carlson. So I'm not sure where
Rick.
Rick is in getting that done. I'll touch base with her and just ask, because that
Okay.
was
Okay.
the last where we were in that.
On the other idea, I know the minute said consider doing it on a Saturday afternoon. I would still like to put out doing it right before our March meeting. That way we're going to be coming to the Grange Hall. It could be a potluck. We could provide desserts and, separate by tables like we've done in the past.
I think we're good.
All right, get the proposal to us.
So who is supposed to
We
bring
can go over it.
Who is supposed to bring it to you? The meeting minutes say it's up to the executive committee. It doesn't say anything about family activities in the meeting minutes that you all approved.
Well, all I knew, it was community service and family activities that when we actually talked about it.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's the family activities. That's what you just said.
That's
So-
for Maker Sunday.
But because neither one of these were my suggestions. So it's gotta be, Dawn was the one that brought them up.
Yep.
So if somebody is gonna bring those up, they've gotta come forward with the proposals.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to do the other one as a proposal because I would like to talk to Melissa and anybody else interested in making stuff, because some of the stuff that we were thinking of is doing it for trying to get it out for sale. And if we are trying to do something like Easter or even doing something towards summer and gardening, it would be nice if we could actually have our meeting on the third Sunday at say noon.
That's why we need the proposals, Dawn.
I sent that back to you.
All it says, it doesn't tell me what you're looking at, except for the fact that it's a Sunday. Doesn't tell me what you're looking at, who's going to be invited, what you're looking for from the Grange. I need something a little more than.
Okay, I propose that.
Please, could you please write it? Just write it. Give something a little more detail.
Forget it then. I'm just worried if we go another month, we're not going to be able to get stuff done. We keep pushing things off. That's why
Right.
I wrote it back as a proposal.
Dawn, everybody, Dawn, your motion that you want to make right now, which you have the right to do because we're still under.
Does that look like a proposal?
Your motion is that you want to do a Maker Sunday event on the third Sunday of each month at 12 noon at the Riverton Grange Hall.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Tim seconds it. Dawn, this is a motion on the floor. Is there communications from anybody?
It was originally discussed with Melissa and myself, and we actually what we would hope is to get a message out both through Facebook, and we can email our members, we can talk to our members to get the word out, even if it's only a couple of us, just getting over there and organizing the stuff you brought over there. It would be worth taking the a few hours on the Sundays as we're going through, whether we start making something or whether we're organizing, but to start doing something and then draw more people in. But everybody is invited. It's not limited. It's open to Grangers, friends, and family.
Okay, so any other communications? I mean, any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Dawn, I will put I have some clay. I'll put some clay aside. I will put some markers aside, some glue aside, and stuff in from our last Amazon order to start the program. So I'll go down probably tomorrow and put that stuff aside for you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to do Maker Sundays, and Dawn is going to be chairing this initiative. The first one will be on February 18th at 12 noon at the Riverton Grange Hall. If there's no further discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, anything else under old business?
David,
Yes, Phil.
we received the email from Judy about dues.
Yes, Phil.
And I think we need to make a motion to do something because a few years ago, a number of years ago, when we stopped, when the change went in that 50-year members no longer had to pay dues,
Yes.
there was a motion made at Riverton Grange that we would pay the dues for any of the non-exempt 50-year members to state and national. So that's always been on the books. Now I'll just give you an example. I mean, Maureen and I are 50-year, but we're not exempt from the national or state dues. We always give a contribution to cover our dues, but there are some other members who because they've been members for more than 50 years, Riverton Grange has always paid their dues. And that was a motion made. So when the letter came out and said that you owe the dues, even though you're a 50-year member, it was a little incorrect. And I'm not being negative to the people who sent it out. I know that there was probably a misunderstanding, and I'm bringing some history here.
Right. So Phil, can I ask a question? Because I know our state secretary just did an audit and the last Grange he finished was Granby, and that you had to be a 50-year member prior to 2001.
That's correct. So I think that probably the only two members that we have that are truly exempt are Sister Shirley and maybe Brother Charles Day. I think all the rest.
Brother Charlie isn't.
He's not.
He's not. The only member we have that is exempt is Shirley.
Yeah, because I think the other one was
That came back from Todd. And it's before 2001.
That passed away. I think she was. But we had a motion that even though National said they were no longer exempt, that Riverton would pay their dues. Okay, so that we would not charge them dues.
So with that one member who has faithfully already paid her dues and given an additional donation, which we so greatly appreciate, Cousin Shirley.
David, no, that's not what I'm saying. She is still exempt.
Okay.
She does not get charged dues because she is exempt, and we don't pay state and national dues on her. There are a number of other 50-year members that we as a Grange voted to say we would pay their dues a number of years ago.
That became after 2001?
Yes.
Okay.
So that,
Phil, can we take this offline and look up the history in the minutes? Because I don't know anything about this.
well, what I'm gonna suggest is instead that we have a motion tonight that we no longer pay the non-exempt dues for 50-year members.
That would make Tilly very happy because that's what I'm nervous about.
No, and what I'm saying is
Second the no
it's
motion.
grown.
Thank you.
And the
You
three
could
people
lose-
sitting here that it affects, I think, or the four people that it affects are Bob, George, Maureen, and I.
Okay,
And we've been exempt from paying, but like I said, we've always paid that amount.
got it. Got
But there are some members that over the years have not paid because of that. So I think we need to make a motion and have that stand that we've changed the policy.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I heard from Sue.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Dawn,
I would like to possibly table this to next meeting only because I think you need to look at some of the names. There are some of them that over 50 years that are people that will do something for the Grange, but they do not have, I mean, they had been giving for those 50 years and they will give if you need them to do something. Like one of those 50-year members actually helped tremendously on our tree festival. And the cost of dues is tough when they're retired and not working, and in some cases. So I just think that the executive committee needs to look a little bit more at that list. I know it's tough, but otherwise, I just don't want to lose anybody.
Worthy Master.
yes.
I know we have to send on $30. So why don't you make the 50-year members pay $30? And that way our Grange won't be losing that money by taking it out of their coffin and sending it into state. It's just an idea. And plus it'll give 50-year members a little break if they can't pay the 40. Just an
Or
idea.
45 is there.
45.
So we,
Right.
Were
so
they
we,
president? I
we
believe
have a-
Dawn made a motion to table it. So
oh, was
you
that a
need-
motion?
I believe it was.
Do we have a second to Dawn's
I'll
motion?
second it. I'll second it.
All in favor of tabling, please say aye.
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 Bye.
Those opposed?
No.
It sounds like the ayes have it. So
Excuse
we're
me,
gonna,
didn't we have to vote on the first motion before going to the
No,
second one?
the
No,
motion
no,
to
not right.
table,
Cancel
the
it out.
motion to table
Okay,
is,
sorry, I wasn't sure.
I think it's too late for this year anyways, because stuff has gone out. But this might be something we can put in effect
right.
down the road.
So in the meeting minutes, Judy, we will say that we voted to table this right now. And we need to follow up with Phil and Tilly and the executive committee to make sure, because it sounds like I like where Phil's going. I understand Dawn's concern. But again, because we don't have money coming into the Grange, our resources are dwindling every year, and we've got to figure out how to keep it going. Okay. If there's no other unfinished business, we're now going to break and go to our lecturers program. And Renee,
Hello.
hi.
So, I have asked Dave Roberts to come together with the history of the Riverton Grange. And because I didn't have all the information, I've listened to a lot of it through the years, but I thought I knew that he would have it. And at the end, we will have a couple of people that will talk about their time in Riverton Grange. So I give you the table there. Dave, go for it.
Thank you, worthy lecturer. And I have to start just by thanking Terry Fazio, who is on with us tonight, who really helped provide some wonderful information for this presentation. We are 116 years old. Grange Strong is our theme. And so I tried to work that into our title. I love this center photos that Judy put I think it was Judy that put it together. And but it shows some of the many fun times we have had just over the last year, and some of the great things that we're doing 116 years after we started. So let's begin and think back to the early days. Isn't it a great idea to start a Grange? Yes, it is. But who knew the Grange is Barkhamsted Grange number 98? Did you know we had a Grange here in Barkhamsted in the early days? I was flabbergasted. I asked the Historical Society. There are no records of it. Terry doesn't know because I was asking them where the Grange Hall was. But we did form a Grange. It was organized in 1889. They had 28 charter members. It was Barkhamsted was the 75th town that was established in the state of Connecticut, and our name came from England. And the Grange lasted for about 11 years, and then it was disbanded. So after that Grange was disbanded, think about what life was like in 1907. Teddy Roosevelt was our young president, 48 years old. Riverton was a thriving village, really the hub of this part of the state, even more so than Winsted at the time. It was a tight-knit community. Neighbors looked out for each other. Residents gathered for social events, picnics, and dances and church activities. Our town's population for all Barkhamsted was about 1,500, and for Barkhamsted, it was a little over 500 people. Diversity of people that lived here, mostly from European backgrounds, some different religious backgrounds. Riverton was the first school district in Barkhamsted that had a 2-room schoolhouse. And they had that in 1907, which was just amazing. And one of the things that I learned is that at that time, Riverton actually had 3 churches. Today, we only have 1. But back then, we had the Episcopal Church, which is the stone church right behind the bakery. We have the present-day Congregational Church. And then on School Street, we had the Methodist Church between Hazel Ransom's house and Durlite. So we had 3 churches back then. And of course, our lifestyle was tied to farming. It was an agricultural lifestyle, and most people were tied to farming. So it was decided, let's take 2 and let's start a Grange. And what was interesting is that this Grange was not a Barkhamsted Grange. It was a Riverton Grange. Riverton is one of 7 villages in the town of Barkhamsted. It was organized on January 3rd, 1908, with 36 charter members. It was a stormy night, icy roads, and they said a lot more probably would have come over top the Riverton General Store, but that was the initial charter members. In 1953, we had 162 members on our rolls, and today I believe we have 76 members on our roll. We do own our own Grange Hall. Our hall was dedicated on December 7th, 1934. And then a big thing back in the 30s, a lot of the Granges went through an incorporation project, and Tilly is always trying to get me to add incorporated when I spell out Riverton Grange 169. So I've been doing that. We used to have meetings twice a month. Today, we just meet 1 Friday a month. We did have a juvenile Grange that I'm going to talk about. And at that time, our Pomona was called Mountain County Pomona. At one time, I believe, Terry, we had 11 Pomonas in Connecticut.
13.
How many?
Connecticut had 13 Pomonas.
13, that's it. This is the original document that got the Grange going. A couple of interesting things on this document. One, the charter secretary is my great and Natalie's great-great-grandmother, Mrs. Carlton Roberts. And if you read the history books, it says the charter secretary is Joy A. Roberts. That was not Dora's first name. Her name was Dora, D-O-R-A. So the books are actually wrong, but Mrs. Carlton Roberts, who had the farm over in Winsted, and you see her husband right above our charter president, our charter master, Fred Seymour, was my great-grandfather, Carlton Roberts, who was the charter steward of Riverton Grange. So these were the charter members of the Grange, and it's interesting some of the names you see, like the Moores, the Raleighs, Seymour, you know, some really old time names, the Ransoms, the Robertses, the Rebelards. So, but these were the initial people that started the Grange. But our organizer, who was the deputy at that time, wrote this letter, and he said, I organized to the best of my ability a Grange at Riverton about 4 miles east of Winsted in the town of Barkhamsted last Friday night. There were 36 charter members, and but for the icy conditions of the road and the grip, there would have been even more. It's a good class all around, and to bring in, and as soon as they get their dispensation, he took in $80, so $65 are available to start the Grange, and I believe they have the makings of a fine Grange. Who would have known 116 years later he could have foreseen the future that we're going to be a fine Grange. The Grange will take in territory in the southeast part of Colebrook, West Heartland and Riverton, which is in the west part of Barkhamsted. Both Winchester and Colebrook Granges aided in the organization, so there'll be no friction in dividing these parts. And as Riverton would never go to Barkhamsted, which I think is so funny, because when the Lions Club started recently, Riverton people said, we will not go to Pleasant Valley 3 miles, 4 miles to Lions. It's the same thing with the Grange, because they won't go that far away. It will not interfere with the dormant Barkhamsted Grange should it be reorganized, but rather would help it. And here's the officers. So Fred Seymour was our master, Leon Coe from the Coe Miller family. My great-grandfather, Natalie's great-great-grandfather, Carlton S. Roberts. George Ransom's name you see here, Raleigh. Again, my great-grandmother was the secretary. Millie Moore was Ceres, but just a really phenomenal letter that Terry is able to have in the digest. I am sorry that Charlie Day is not here, because Charlie Day is actually in this picture. I believe if my cursor is showing up, that's our Charlie Day right there. And that Charlie's father was the master this year. This Grange was formed in 1948, the juvenile Grange, the junior Grange. They had 42 charter members, but just look at how cute they all are. I just thought I'd love that picture. And when you look at some of the names like the Capabiancas, the Carrazos, you know, these are the Centrellas. These are the people, you know, I grew up with, probably, you know, their children or grandchildren. So I just thought that was just a really nice memento. Our first meeting hall. We met over the general store. At that time, Raleigh's general store. Upstairs here was a hall, and we met there from 1908 to 1934. Barbara and Donnie Myers, who are members of our Grange that live up in Maine now, told me that Barbara's apartment was one of the 2 apartments that were made out of that Grange hall up there. And just a little piece of information, the general store did change hands again on January 1st, and Leslie DiMartino is now the owner of the general store business, as well as the building again. And that building still stands, and to the right here is where the Village Gift Shop is. That's a new gift shop that opened last year. You wonder, what did the initial Grange do? Well, one of the things they did was publish a cookbook in 1923, the year the year before one of our members were born. So anyways, but that was kind of cool. Our first, I mentioned our first master, he died in 1934, Fred Seymour. It talks here about his career. He was the superintendent of the Riverton Fairgrounds. He had a nursery. He's charter member and master of Riverton Grange. He was steward and overseer at Mountain County, Pomona. He also worked for the town as the assessor. But one of the interesting things here was the funeral will be at his home Friday afternoon. This is when funerals used to be in homes. And when you go around and look at some of these older homes and you see the coffin doors, so the coffins could easily get into the area of the home where they used to have funerals. So, but that was the passing of our first master. Our next Grange Hall, again, our Grange was organized in 1908, but we went from the general store over to the current Grange Hall in 1934. The building was purchased for $2,200, and it all began with a pig that was donated and raffled off to start a building acquisition fund. And you have to, I'm sorry?
Oh,
Yes.
the second master. Yeah.
Yes, Leon Cole. And you have to, to me, this building is just a testament, like the people in this Grange, that we will survive. The Grange survived the 55 flood and the fire that destroyed the Hitchcock Chair finishing area, which was right to the side of us. That's now all that open space. We survived both things. And so it's just remarkable. Mentioning the 55 flood, love this. Riverton Grange members have cleaned out most of the flood silt and debris from the Grange Hall. Next step to be taken is to jack the building up and make it level. Work parties have been scheduled according to Rujo Moore, our master. Yep. And in one of the later articles, Shirley talks about how the floor took years to settle down because of the damage and the buckle, because I guess the water came up to about 16 inches. And for those that don't know, the river was diverted, part of it, right underneath the Grange Hall for the grist mill, and you could see some of the wood planks and stuff under there. Yes.
For years, when we did degree work, and you used to have to wear the masks, you could feel the rise and fall as you were marching around the Grange Hall. So it took years to get rid of that silt, and I'm not sure it's still all gone.
Yeah. One of the many things that Terry shared with me, and you all remember, we did a mystery ride a couple of years ago, and it was the last ride that Denny and his wife came on before she passed away. We went to Squire's Tavern in Pleasant Valley, but this was a mystery ride in 1962. And you see some names here from the past, which is really cool to see people that were involved. And this mystery ride went up to Vermont. I mean, and one of the things I've been talking about is how can we bring back some of the fun old traditions that we have done? Because you didn't know where you were going. Only the host car knew where they were driving. The rest of the people didn't know. And so this was just one of the many things we used to do. The next one here is talking about giving the degrees. But what I like in here is the last sentence in the second paragraph. A proposal of membership submitted by Philip Prelli will also be considered on March 18th, 1963, when your worthy current president was 2 years old. But I thought this was just great. But they also had another thing that the State Grange started. It was called Dairy Suppers, and many Granges competed to put on a dairy supper, and there was a contest. Y'all remember that? And different Granges would participate. But again, just some phenomenal stuff here. Here's a picture of in 1963 and our beautiful wood on the front here. This was our Joe Stopko, the master at that time, doing some work on the Grange. This article actually talks about some of the building and in repairs. And again, this is about 8 years after the Great Flood. So just amazing. Just moving forward, our first Riverton Grange Fair was in 1990. So it's just amazing when you think about that and talking about some of the areas and things that we worked on. And of course, here's one of our wonderful judges. This was Shirley back there, and Sister Shirley, and judging one of the contests, which she has been involved with for many years. Now, one of the things that our lecturer, Renee, asked me to talk about was Granges that merged with Riverton Grange. So the first one was Laurel Grange, number 201 in North Canaan. They were originally organized in 1936. They did own their own hall on Route 44. There's a picture of the Grange right here. Some of the people that came to our Grange, George Russell from our executive committee, Denny from our executive committee, the Freunds, came from Laurel. George was installed as the Laurel Master in 1977. An interesting tidbit that Terry told me was Laurel Grange had no indoor plumbing. There originally was an outhouse, which eventually was not able to be used. In later years, they could not hold public functions at the hall, only private meetings due to health department restrictions. And it's amazing, Washington Hill United Methodist Church still does not have a bathroom where we attend, and their outhouse collapsed about 5 years ago. So there's no facilities there. Laurel did also have a junior Grange. So that was
David,
Laurel. And yes, Phil.
David, Laurel never officially merged with Riverton. A lot of their members came to Riverton, but some of them also went to Winchester. So it wasn't a complete
Victory.
We
Victory.
lucked out and got the better members.
Yes.
Also Victory at that time.
Yep.
Someone went to
Yeah,
Victory.
someone went to Victory. You're right. Yeah.
Yep. So next is Victory, and this is the building that's now a beautiful home. They were organized in 1919, and their hall was dedicated in 1939. It was next to the fire department there. It's now a nice residence. They did merge into Riverton in 2004. Former state master Frank Prelli belonged to Victory, even though Phil's mom and all of you came to Riverton. He was at Victory at the time, and they also had a junior Grange. Another one that was nearby where many Granges picked up members was Cherrybrook Grange, number 210 in Canton, and they did own their own hall on Cherrybrook Road. Their hall was built in 1957 from stuff left over from the Great Flood of 55. When they closed, they gave their hall to the town of Canton. In 2015, the town returned the hall to Connecticut State Grange, and they just sold the hall in 2021. Cherrybrook did not officially merge with Riverton when they closed. Their members went to Eureka, which was in New Hartford. They went to Simsbury, Cowassa, and Canton, Collinsville area, and some to Riverton. And some of the major families were the Leggett family, the Langer family, and the Seeger family. And I'm actually working on a member of the Leggett family who goes to Washington Hill Methodist Church about joining our Grange and bringing back some Leggett family history also. We do have some Leggetts in our Grange currently. And Cherrybrook was a big community service Grange. Their projects included building the North Canton Post Office, hosting polio clinics, and they won national awards for their community service work. And they also had a junior Grange.
But Victory was the same before you go on, because I know at least 2 members went to Winchester from Victory. So it wasn't a total merge type of thing. So it was, again, they went to area, but we got most of them.
We got their clock.
Yes, we got it.
The difference was that Victory and Riverton did consolidate. But anytime there's a consolidation, members have the right to take a demit and go to a different Grange. So that's what happened with the Victory members. But Victory and Riverton did merge or consolidate. That was a vote of both Granges.
And what I'm going to do, just so you all know, is we're going to use this document and continue to build on it. This is just an initial step because so much I didn't know as a fourth generation member. And I was teasing Natalie when we were driving to the airport today. I said, you're the fifth generation. You need to know some of this stuff about the history and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep adding stuff to it. But back in 08, we celebrated our 100th anniversary. And here's a great picture here. You see Gail in the background, Peggy Prelly, Sister Shirley here. You know that our beautiful ramp that was donated, it's named after Peggy and Frank Prelly. In here, Shirley talks about some of the activities of the Grange, but in things that we've done over the years. As I mentioned, we're turning now 116. We're still going strong. And again, we started with this picture and ending with this picture, but just some of the things you see here in the picture, you see our tree festival, you see our deaf awareness event, you see some of our officers, you see our veterans events, our community service events, our Citizen of the Year event, our state or our Connecticut Riverton Grange Fair event. So all types of different activities that we are still doing and going strong in our Grange. And of course, this presentation would not have been possible without Terry, who spent an inordinate amount of time helping me pull this information together based on what I was asking about. But Lecturer Renee has asked, and will ask anybody, but I wanted to start with Sister Shirley if she wanted to. And let me take this down so we can see everybody again. I wanted you to say, Sister Shirley, if you wanted to share a few words with us as we approach the 100th anniversary of someone's life. Would you like to share a few words with us?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Grujo and I joined in October of 1951. I was pregnant for Susan. Had two little boys first. Anyway, Francis Green, who was a Weigold, and I don't think many people remember even the Weigolds anymore, but the Weigolds and the Millards owned all the property where the factories are out on Route 8 going into Colebrook, from Winston to Colebrook. So Clark and Fran Green lived across the street from us, and they were active Grange members. So she said to me, "You've got to join the Grange." And I had never heard of it. I was too busy doing other things. So I did, though. When I was a young teenager, I did go to the square dances that the Grange held, but I never knew what the Grange was about. So we went over and we joined in October. I have had every office in this Grange except the gatekeeper, the assistant steward, and the steward. Every other office I've held. I enjoyed, I was a lecturer for several years, and what we finally did was have our 2 meetings every month, and finally decided we'd have a business meeting, the first meeting, and just a happy time for the second meeting, and have a really good program. And I was lecturer then, And we had people come in and talk to us. Peter Keefe did a great show on
The surveying.
surveying equipment from the time it started up till the present. And Rudrell's father was a surveyor, and we had, in fact, we still have his equipment. So it was far different from what you see people looking through a little eye thing to get the properties measured. I think that, and of course, we had suppers every month to raise money to keep the Grange going. Irene Geddes used to make a dozen pies, and I made probably 6 or 8 pies, and then everybody else brought a couple of pies. That was a fun time. There was a lot of work, but a lot of a good company, and we just all worked together. One funny thing, we didn't used to have 2 bathrooms, a woman's and a men's. We had 2 where the flag is, that little corner where we're storing things now. And I was lady assistant steward at the time. And every time I saluted the flag, I was saluting the toilet in that bathroom. And I got sick of it. And I said, we're going to put in new bathrooms, and the men are not going to go down to the cellar anymore. They're going to have their own on our. So Rujo and I were the ones who said, this is it. We have to have 2 bathrooms, and they have to be right here off the hall. So that got, we even took a trip before it was finished. We didn't get back. And when we got back, we finished it, the painting in there. Other than that, it's been a fun time. I'm just sorry I can't do all the things I used to do.
So, Sister Shirley, People's Forest and you are turning 100 years old in October, which is great on both accounts. Our plaque did come in, by the way, and I delivered it to the town to put on our boulder for when we have our dedication ceremony. So we're excited about that. But had you ever heard of the Barkhamsted Grange?
No.
Because I'm 63 years old and I never heard of it. And I've gone through history books. I contacted the Historical Society and they say there's no record of it, which is really, really strange because they're the ones that helped us find the Grange plot at Peoples. Well, thank you, Sister Shirley, for those remarks. Brother Bob, you're right behind. Would you like to share some remarks? You're muted, Bob. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I didn't know I was doing. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I joined the Grange in 1955, the year of the flood, as a matter of fact. And I didn't know anything about the Grange. I heard about it, the stories about it, but I thought, well, that was just for farmers, so nothing I'd ever want to be involved in. Well, when I met Dorothy Rebillard, she said, well, you want to be a Granger? I said, what's a Grange? I don't know anything about it. Well, she was involved in the Grange, of course. I'd been for years, and so was her sister Irene. So I thought, well, if I'm going to have a relationship with this girl, which I did, I better join the Grange. So I did join the Grange at that time. And it's funny, I was only in for a few months. And as I said, we had the flood in August 1955. And I can remember Rujo and I, you talked about in your article, Rujo and I were over there one day, as we did, as many of the people did, there with wheelbarrows and getting silt and everything else out of the main floor. And this one day we were trying to tie up a main beam on the south side of the Grange. And Rujo and I had ropes and everything, and we just weren't tall enough to get under. I mean, he was tall, but I was as tall as he was, and we couldn't get it. Well, along came Jack Kennedy, who was president of the Hitchcock Chair, and saw us, and he said, "Let me get my shoulder under there." And he was just tall enough, so he was holding up the whole Grange while Rujo and I were tying that up. But it was amazing that we did get it done, and as Shirley said, and everybody else said, that floor, I can remember the altar sliding back and forth most of the time. We had to get it just right, because if we didn't, it would slide one way or the other way. And that floor for the longest time did not settle. In fact, I don't know if it's completely settled today. I'm sure if we put a level on it, we'd find it was not. But Dot and I remained in the Grange, and I'm going to be a 70-year member next year, as a matter of fact. And it was something I really enjoyed. But today, I took some time, and I found one of the books. This is from, if you can see that, 1950s. It's 2003. And I went through that book, and it was amazing to find that out of the, I think there were 100 and some odd Granges at the time. Well, as a matter of fact, there were 68 Granges that were organized in the 1800s. And there were 21 Granges that were organized in the 1900s. Now, the first Grange was Stafford Grange, was organized in 1874. The last Grange to be organized, as far as I know, unless there's some other records, and I'm talking about Connecticut, was Cherry Brook, and that was in 1945. Now, I don't think we've had another Grange organized. I mean, we've had reorganization.
Groton Grange organized a couple of years ago. They're the newest one.
I'm sorry, who did?
Groton Grange.
Groton, did they? Okay, all right. I wasn't aware of that. Okay, so, but considering, but that was a new Grange, Terry? That was a new Grange?
Yeah, they're a brand new Grange. They're not a reorganization.
So that was probably the most recent one since 1945 then. That could very well.
There was one in the 1960s, Preston City.
Was there? Okay,
Yep.
All right. And it's also interesting to note, but I didn't find anything about any of the major cities. I don't see where Hartford had a Grange. Now, maybe they did, but maybe goes back, or Bridgeport or New Haven. Maybe they did, but there's nothing in this book that showed that there was anything like that. And I thought, that's strange. Our own capital city didn't ever have a Grange. But
a lot of the Granges went around the areas of the capital cities. They were out, like there's one in East Hartford, which is the closest one to Hartford. And down New Haven, there was one in Branford and one in Hamden. So they're all just outside of the big cities.
Right, yeah. But you would have thought that maybe the big cities would have had something, at least one or two of them, but never did. But it was interesting, and I've enjoyed the Grange over the years. As Shirley said, we've enjoyed putting the meals together. It was fun doing that. I can remember the turkey dinners that we used to have every single month. Phyllis would get down there and her crew, they'd get everything ready on a Saturday night. Dot and I were down there Sunday morning. We'd take at 6 o'clock and take the turkeys out of the oven. And it was a great meal for everybody. Everybody enjoyed that. And it's too bad we couldn't have kept that up. But it was good money making for the Grange. And, as Shirley says, we're getting older now, most of us, some of us, and they can't do quite as much as we used to, but try to be active as much as I can anyway. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Bob. And just, you mentioned age. On this call, we have, and I know we have our guest from Potomac Grange, Joan Smith is here. We're so glad to see her here. We have people from age 15 to age 99 that are on the call here tonight, and everybody in between. That's and even one of our members is going to be eligible to join the senior center this month. Miss Judy, you have to be 50 years old to join the senior center, so we can all guess how old Judy's going to be.
I had a laugh, Dave.
Yes, George.
Judy, I'm going to be old enough to join myself.
Yes, George, did you have a memory to share?
Well, I'm a little over 50-year member. Of my first half of the 25, 26 years, I was active at Laurel Grange in East Canaan. I didn't even know where Laurel Grange, we had a building right on the Route 44. You step down about 6 steps, you're right in the road. There was no parking. Somebody wanted to know how much land we owned around the side. one of our older members said the land that we owned on either side was enough to walk a team of oxen around the building. That's how they measured the how much property we had. And yeah, there was never a bathroom in there. We had what we call a destroy-it. It was a gas fired. So once you went, you shut the lid down and step back, and the flames would burn it up. So, but and then I think another funny thing about Laurel was we used to put on the dairy suppers every year. The Freunds were very active in Hood or Milk for Health. So she used to get all kinds of free stuff or hang up in the hall, and cheese and butter and whatever. And we would have our meal. And what we did for running water is we ran a hose from the neighbor's house. So we did that for quite a few years. And then finally we ended up just going and renting a hall in Canaan, one of the churches, and had our dinners there. So, and then I came to Riverton, and I didn't really wasn't too active in the officers. I think I held gatekeeper or something, but I did run through all the chairs in Pomona and was Pomona master for 4 or 5 years. And then I went back in again as the master at the end of Mountain County. And I was the master when we closed. Of course, then I was on the Ag Committee for the State Grange. And then I was the deputy for Mountain County, Pomona. And then thanks to Phil, I was his general deputy in his term. And from there, I was elected gatekeeper and went on and was the state president. Well, for 4 years. So now I'm on the executive committee for the Riverton Grange, Mount Laurel, Pomona, and the state of Grange for Connecticut State Grange. So it's been a good 50 years, I guess. I think I really got tired out after my term as state president. Of course, I always look back at I was the lucky one to get it during the COVID years. So, but we made it through, and thank you for letting me share a little of my experience both in Mountain Laurel and Riverton.
Thank you, Brother George. So, Brother Phil, I guess they accepted your application in 1963? They voted you in?
I did get voted in.
You weren't
I
blackballed.
actually took my first 4 degrees at Winchester Grange, though, because I could then get into Pomona and State Grange and make it to national that same year. So, but yeah, I was accepted and have spent a few years in. And if you do the math, I guess that should tell you that we're up for our 60-year pins this year. I think a couple of things, David, I found interesting. I think we probably can't find anything about Barkhamsted Grange because they were probably part of the first Connecticut State Grange. And so many of those records got lost when the Connecticut State Grange went dormant for a few years.
Actually, they weren't, Phil. They came in after the
They
first.
weren't, huh?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
But they were only around 10 years, so there's not a whole lot about them.
Yeah. So we'll have to do some history checking at National, see if they have anything on it. But and I think the other thing, David, you might find interesting, someplace in the records, in the secretary's records and over there, is a 75-year history that my mother wrote for the 75th year, for our 75th anniversary. And it does a lot of the history there. I've been lucky in Grange, and I think many of you have heard me say that Grange made a big difference in my life. A couple of little stories about Riverton Grange that some of our members will remember. The first time I became master, I was 19 years, or president, I was 19 years old. And it was when my cousin John passed away. And that was a tough time for me. But the second time I became president. It was a few years later, and it was when MDC gave us the property behind the Grange. And that they had to give it to a non-for-profit, so they gave it to the Riverton Grange. Well, Mr. Kenny at Hitchcock Chair needed to put a pump in so that he could run water to his factories so that he could have sprinklers. And so Paul Pasquarella and I went and met with Mr. Kinney, and I was the master at about 23 years old, talking to this guy who had been around forever, I think. And he said, well, what do you want? And we said, we only want one thing, because I had talked to the executive committee. We said, we'll give you the property, but you have to set up hydrants in the town of Riverton, so that Riverton has hydrants along Route 20. So it'll help all the people in the community. And then you can set up your pumping station and make sure that the hydrants are charged. And we cut that deal with him. And over the years, we cut deals where we allowed him to park, and they cleared the Grange off. But it was because of that operation that we were able to do. That's why we have fire hydrants in Riverton. So that's part of the history of the fire hydrants in Riverton. I've been lucky. I've held a few offices in our Grange. Like Sister Shirley, I have never been gatekeeper of Riverton Grange. They never elected me there. We were lucky enough that Sister Maureen and I were able to be assistant and lady assistant stewards together in both Riverton and Mountain County Pomona, which we enjoyed thoroughly. I was president of Riverton Grange, or master of Riverton Grange, I think 3 times over the years. Served on the executive committee a number of years. And the greatest thing that I used to tell people was, they'd say to me, what office do you hold in your subordinate? And I would say, I don't have an office. I'm chairman of their legislative committee, and I haven't. And for 25 years, I held no office in Riverton Grange. Then they finally elected me back to an office. So, but I enjoyed that, because what was important, I said, was I don't have to hold an office. Others can have the honor of holding those offices. I've already had it. I did work my way up through the chairs at Mountain County Pomona Grange, serving as their master. And I was on the youth committee of the National Grange. One of the things we did was Sister Sue Gray from Econ Grange and I worked and organized the Connecticut State Youth Grange that was around for a number of years. We brought that idea back. And for many of you who know me, don't understand that at one point I was very shy and quiet. And I had to go before the State Grange Executive Committee and make the argument of why we should have a youth Grange. And we were able to win that argument and form the youth Grange. I also served as a deputy under State Master Frank Warner. I did a number of other jobs in State Grange. I refused to be a state officer under my father, but that was because I didn't want people to say that the only reason I got a state office was because my father appointed me. I was lucky enough to get elected gatekeeper and work my way up through the chairs of the Connecticut State Grange. Served for a number of years on the executive committee. And I think Brother George will attest a number of years as chairman of the executive committee of Connecticut State Grange. And I was also the first person from Connecticut in 40 years to get elected to a national office when I got elected national treasurer. The person before me was Brother Kingsley Beecher from Winchester. And it was 40 years before Connecticut had another national officer. Served 14 years on the executive committee or board of directors of the National Grange, where a number of years I was chairman of that, and rose up to be vice president of the National Grange. And my last office was the high priest of Demeter.
No, you are high priest.
I'm sorry, priest archon. Thank you. Priest archon of the National Grange. And 18 years as a National Grange officer, I decided to step down a year ago. And now I'm very happily relaxed. I still serve on the board of the Grange Advocacy, and I've had past experience on the board of with Sister Joan Smith on Grange Foundation. So one of the things I bring up is I thought about this one night. I think I'm the only person that I know who served on every voting delegate body of the Grange, from subordinate Grange to subordinate executive committee, Pomona and state, and then all the committees and all the companies of the National Grange. So it's been a great run, and I'm very happy the 60 years we gave, plus the 10 years in junior Grange. And I'm sure Sister Amelia Zordon would be very happy to see that you showed that picture. She was very proud of the junior Grange. And we were very proud to also, I should say, Sister Renee will remember, at one point more, I was a junior leader as well. So that was a great time. I know I bored you. I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Brother Phil. I'm so glad we're recording this history and that we will have this. I was hoping that maybe Sister Dawn, you wanted to do your heirloom, and here is the social media for this month's heirloom.
Okay, it says encourage improvement. Remember that nature's motto is onward. She never goes backward. And when the National Grange put out with this picture, the Grange believes that you are never too old to or experience to learn more. And it talked about mentorship. And, for me, I just thought that mentorship was something that I know when Rod joined the Grange, I think he bugged him and Mark were talking back and forth with it. And then I would say probably one of his greatest mentors was Phil yourself, with everything you told him how to grow up and do. And I got thinking about my mentors through the Grange, and I thought that for some of us, this might be how you might want to say something about your Grange experience. But when I started in junior Grange, my mentor was my Aunt Peggy. Anytime that I was, if I had to be encouraged to do something, or she thought that this was a contest we really needed to do, like the make something from nothing, that I remember it went to national, and she was so excited about me making this doorstop. Had to have been around 76 because the doorstop wore a 1776 dress. And, really all the way through, and then getting into the subordinate Grange, I would say Aunt Peggy was probably my greatest mentor up to that point, because she was even the one that was, even though my mother was leader at the time, with Stotler, Mr. Stotler. I think that was his name. It was Aunt Peggy that encouraged us, and I wrote about this in the Granger one time about doing the haunted house. It was either, or maybe at that point it was Cindy, and Cindy was leader, but we, Nancy and I, put together a haunted house, and it was really Aunt Peggy that encouraged us that we could do that. As I got into the Grange, one of my first offices was lecture. And my greatest mentor for lecture, and even in junior Grange, was Irene. Giving me, you mentioned Aunt Peggy's rendition of the 75th Grange history. Irene gave me her history, and I think I read it one year when I went back in as lecture. But Irene was my mentor for lecture and putting on a program and how to get a program started. Irene always, if anybody remembers Irene Geddes, you should remember that she did all 4 degrees of lecture for the degrees. Nobody else could say the words as well as she could. I think the lecture of all the parts in the degrees, the lecture ones to me are some of the hardest. The words like kind of jumble back and forth, and Irene could always put them together and would help you get through them. And I remember she helped me greatly getting through the 4th degree of lecture parts. And from there, as I went up into overseer and beyond, I think my other big mentor there was Aunt Phyllis. And if you remember my Aunt Phyllis, or Phyllis Alsopko Beers, she was a person with a big personality. She had a way of doing things, could be right or wrong, but I learned a lot from Aunt Phyllis as far as being master. And sometimes that would interfere with what I think Aunt Peggy wanted me to do, but that's beside the point. I've been not just had mentors in subordinate Grange. I would say when the Beechers asked me to be on the youth committee many years ago, my big mentor then was B.J. Harrington, who this October told me that she was going to resign from the youth committee because she couldn't do it anymore. But she was actually probably, and when I got her, or when George got her back on the committee with me, I was so excited because she was really my mentor, first mentor outside the Grange, that, or outside of our subordinate Grange, that influenced me on that. So that's some of my mentors, but I'd like to hear about some of the other people's mentors, and then maybe we could hear about some other people that have been in the Grange over the years that influenced you. I remember Tilly saying that Aunt Peggy was a big mentor for her when she took over after Irene was for treasurer and helped her there. And she mentioned Aunt Phyllis again for working with because for a while Tilly did the dinners. She took it over after Aunt Phil for a while. But, I'd like to hear from some other people who were some of their mentors.
Well, this is a wonderful trip down memory lane. And I know my grandmother, who served as gatekeeper, and my first office was as gatekeeper. And my grandmother and Ida Ratzel recruited me to Grange and said, you have to be a member. And, but, just so many wonderful memories. We're right at the hour point right now. So maybe at a future meeting, we can continue this, Lecturer Renee.
Yeah.
And
Dave, before you just mentioned Ida Ratzel. And if anybody doesn't know what Ida Ratzel looks like, if you can imagine a little lady with bright red lipstick and a fake fur stole, or a fur stole that would come in and sit outside and take money at Riverton Fair to log you in. And I think a lot of people remembered her because for years she was the person taking your money at our Riverton Fair dinners.
That was at the Whitney.
No, that was Ethel Whitney.
Yeah,
it was another Ethel. Oh,
no, Ethel Whitney, Mrs. Whitney, that had the rooming house in Winston, was the money taker at the door. And then Ida actually was one of the Graces for many years. She had a full head of white hair, a New Yorker. She and her husband came out to work at the general store. They were great friends with Ernie Jordan and his wife, who owned the store at that time. But this is just a phenomenal trip. But I think it goes to show 116 years ago, when the deputy wrote the letter and said, this is going to be a fine Grange. It's a fine Grange because of all of you. The history, the tradition. We're bringing in new people. We've added the Sweeneys. We've added John Lukens. We've added Margot. New people coming into our Grange. We don't want to lose track of our history. And Terry Fazio, I cannot thank you enough for all the history you bring to us. But we also, our Grange is like it transforms over time, and we try to fit things, you know, just like we started our Veteran of the Month ceremony, our deaf awareness activity, thanks to the National Grange Foundation, our flag retirement ceremonies, our collaboration with the American Legion Post 159. These are the types of activities. Our dictionary projects, we're going to be getting ready for that again this year. We've been doing that for a number of years in our local schools. If you saw the national patron today, patron chain, one of the Granges has donated their 20,000th dictionary. I was trying to think, I think if you take off a zero, it's about how many we've done, probably close to 2,000 to the 4 elementary schools, because we do 60 plus a year, 60 to 80 plus a year. So, but just our Grange is because of all you. We've kept it going. The flood didn't stop us. The fire didn't stop us. And even when you look at the history, there's comments, oh, we should redo the second floor of our Grange Hall and make it into a meeting space up there. We're still talking about that this last year in 2023. So the Grange is us. We've got, you know, Judy Doyle that's come into the Grange. We've got great friends like Pat Tarka. We've got associate members like Carol Innes, you know, so it's just wonderful to see the people that make up Riverton Grange. So happy 116th anniversary. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. Our Grange has a long way to go, and I'm just excited to be part of it and on this journey with all of you. So Renee, that ends our lecturers program.
Oops, sorry. I had to take me.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was.
Thank you, Dave, for such a great program. It was awesome to see all that information. I know I've seen a lot of it in the past, but it's great to pull it together. And thank you to Terry for helping him with that. So it's, I'm not sure what you got to do next, but thank you.
So we're just going to quickly finish our business portion of our meeting. We were on new business, and Brother Bob, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, I make a motion, we pay the bills on proper approval of the executive committee.
Okay, and do we have a second? Second by Sister Dawn. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor show the sign of the order. Down hands those opposed. That passes in the affirmative. Is there any other new business tonight? I know we're running late and I try to get you out by 8:30. Any other new business? Oh, Renee, I love your sash. I just saw it. Cool. If there's not, is any member sick or in distress? I will mention COVID has been going around. I know 2 on this phone or this meeting just have gotten over COVID, but it's really making its rounds. I was talking to the owners of the Riverton Inn. They had an outbreak there. So please be careful, be safe. I'm glad we're doing Zooms. Let's do it. Yes.
I think it should be in the records that we would have draped our charter tonight, but we'll do it when the next meeting comes. That past master brother probably has passed away. I think that would be in that sick or in distress.
Yep. Yes, we talked about that at the last meeting, and we said we're going to drape it.
Yeah.
You weren't with us. That's okay. You weren't with us, but we're going to drape it at the March meeting. We also sent a proposal to the Riverton Grange Fair leadership about some ideas to honor your brother's memory. And that meant a lot to him, and we want to continue his name associated with that. So thank you, Brother Phil. Let's do a count. First of all, for our guest, Joan Smith, it is so wonderful to see you here from Potomac Grange #1, National Grange Foundation. As you all know, you can be an associate member of Potomac Grange #1. We are promoting associate memberships. They meet by Zoom once a month. It's a luncheon meeting. They have very low cost dues that you can pay online. And it's just a great Grange to keep in touch with a number of people from around the country. We have members from Nevada and from Florida and from Washington, D.C. And I really like it since I lived in Washington, D.C. For so many years. But Sister Joan, did you want to say anything before we finish the count?
Well, I just want to say happy 116th birthday to Riverton. And it was very interesting to listen to all your history. And I have 65 years as a subordinate member, and then as a juvenile member when we started when I was in Farmingdale in New Jersey. So my history is 6 generations in New Jersey. Now my daughter is the president of the county Pomona Grange there now, and her girls are come to Revival. I don't know if I don't recognize any of you from going to Revival, but my grandkids now attend Revival that's sponsored by the National Grange. This year we were in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But I wanted to congratulate those of you on Connecticut for getting the National Grange Foundation Deaf Award this year in 23, and the great work you did with the American Deaf School with their Halloween event that spanned a weekend. And I know a lot of you were involved with that. I saw Judy's name on some of the posters, and Dave, and many of those in the state. It wasn't just a Riverton group. It was I guess a county or maybe the whole state that was involved in that. So congratulations on being the foundation's winner this year. And we look forward to the next project you do with them. Even if you don't get a grant, it's a great bunch of folks there. My niece is a nationally certified deaf awareness interpreter, which started because of the Grange. She was a junior Granger in New Jersey. We had sign language. They learned a song every year. They learned the Pledge of Allegiance. And now for her, it's a career. So there's opportunities both for career paths as well as fellowship and joy that you have in the Grange. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was your plot of land at the National Forest that you've been working hard to get that plaque identified. And I forget when your dedication is, but I think it's coming up this spring, if I recall.
That's what we're hoping.
Congratulations on that, and for the research that somebody did to bring that back up to being headline news. So thank you on that. And I took some notes as I was thinking about the name Riverton and Connecticut over reading your newspapers, etc. I want to tell you about the National Grange Foundation Scholarship. This is the first year we're now able, we had a bequeath from a family in Virginia, Ernestine Kaiser family. She was very involved with the youth, and she wanted to do an educational program. So we now have developed a scholarship. It's you must be a Granger for at least 1 year in good standing. Any age, if you want to go back to vocational school and learn how to do small engine, lawnmower refurb, and you're interested in this scholarship, you can apply. You don't have to be recent high school graduate. We're going to have one winner. This is our first year, so we're calling it our pilot year, and it's going to be $1,000 this year as we work out all of our processes. So we do things smartly, that we evaluate, that our criteria that we're going to use to evaluate after we get a bunch of applications, does our criteria make sense? Have we got the right team? Are we getting the right questions in our application? So this is our pilot year, and then we'll revisit it. So if any of you have children, grandchildren that are Grangers that are interested in a scholarship to vocational, trade, college, university, or maybe they're going back, maybe you're going back for your master's degree or a PhD or to be a lawyer or something. Doesn't matter. Whatever type of higher education or getting a specialty certification of some kind, you all qualify. So I wanted to share that with you. If you hadn't heard about it yet, you're going to see it in the patron chain every single week, starting next Friday. I wrote the articles today. There'll be a little splash about it, telling you a little bit about it every single week. It's on the grangefoundation.org website. And I encourage you to share that information with Rangers to apply for that scholarship. Those are the things I jotted down while y'all were talking, so that I would touch on those 4 or 5 things on your birthday celebration. And I'm glad you're recording it, because now you'll revisit that and it may reshape what you all have put together so far, hearing those stories and talking about the running the hose from neighbors. That's what we had to do in Jersey when the Junior Grange was on the Junior Grange committee there. We used to run a hose across the road from the neighbors to the Grange Hall to have our lunch and have coffee, but didn't matter. Everybody's happy and smiling and doing our work. So we work under any conditions and we always get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Just a quick humorous thing. Our neighboring Grange is Granby Grange, where a few of us are associate or affiliate members at Granby Grange, and they just put in a water spigot outside, so we had water for our garden. And I laughed. They put it in at Prelly height. It's at 6 feet, and poor Carol Innes can't reach the spigot, so we're gonna have to put in Carol Innes steps to get to the spigot. But I just laughed because I said, "What's wrong with this?" And I said, "This is for, we always called it the Prelly cabinets in the kitchen. It's like at our tall heights." So, anyways, then the second thing is I'm trying to work with our state president to bring Joan here to Connecticut to put on a program on Reaching Rural's Surgical Senior Program, the RRSS program, which is a great program to give education to all people, whether you're anticipating surgery or you have a loved one who is, just what the questions are to ask. There's a 2-year program. I serve as the Northeast representative for this program. There's funds for local Granges to participate in promoting it. So if we don't get the state to do it, I'm going to get some of the local Granges that we work closely with and we can bring Joan in to do a presentation on that. So Joan, thank you for all you do for Grange. We appreciate it. So back to the member.
Thank you for all of you in Connecticut. George and I spent one long afternoon in an airport in Wichita, Kansas. About 3 years ago, we had gone out to the leaders conference in Wichita, Kansas, and we all got snowed in. So George, I think Phil, you were there too, weren't you, Phil? Phil and George, myself, and there was a 4th person, and none of us had a deck of cards. So that was unfortunate. And we didn't, I didn't think about, I could have made a deck while we were sitting there. We were there for a whole day. And then finally they told us we were not going to leave. So we all found hotels someplace in town, and we all got home a day or 2 later from that conference. So I'm here at my son's right now. That palm tree you see is a fake. I do live in Florida, but I'm a little odd bird. I spend the winters with my son and daughter in Virginia and New Jersey, because I take advantage of the seasonal snowbirds, and I rent my house in Florida during the winter. So I'm sitting here waiting for the snow to come here in in Virginia near Shenandoah Mountains. So I'm not sure where Phil and Maureen are right now. They look like they have sweatshirts on or long sleeves, so they may be north.
Southport, we're in North Carolina, but it's been cold
just
here
a little
today.
cold here.
They're complaining about the rain.
50 today.
Phil doesn't turn the heat on in the house.
I saw your turtleneck there, and I said, well, they must be up in Connecticut visiting family or something.
No, just no heat.
So let's go back to the count. We had Paula and Joan, Joan's Potomac Grange. Paula was a guest. We have Pat Tarka, who is Coassa/Simsbury. Is that right, Pat?
Yes, affiliate Simsbury, Coassa member.
Great. And then for Riverton, Sisters of Riverton Lets Us Count, we have Renee, Sue, Shirley. I'm sorry, Terry. You're Winchester, Terry.
Yes, I'm Winchester.
Winchester Grange. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 women and brothers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, brothers 7. Did I miss anybody?
Are you counting Chris?
I counted Chris.
That's what I thought.
He came on, he gave us information about the plumber. All right, thank you all. Suggestions for the good of the order. I want to mention, at least I know Judy and I are going to Concord, New Hampshire next weekend. Does Chris know this, Judy? We're going to Concord, New Hampshire next weekend.
I told him yesterday.
For the Northeast Leaders Conference. We're so happy that they're having a leaders conference up there. And my mom is probably going also from Riverton Grange. We will be planning the lecturers conference for the Northeast. The lecturers conference is going to be the last weekend in June, probably at the Holiday Inn in Norwich. And but we're going to be finalizing the plans next weekend for the lecturers conference. So I wanted to mention both of those under suggestions for the good of the order. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Brother George.
Sharon and I are planning on going to.
Oh, excellent. I know Debbie Vale says she can't go now. She was going to carpool with us from Winchester because she's on the planning committee for the lecturers event as our Pomona lecturer, and Judy's on the planning committee for the lecturers event also. Carol, you should be going to Concord, New Hampshire. Dawn, you're going to Concord, aren't you?
No, I actually had to back out of it because it's just too much with school right now.
I got it. Okay. Anyways, that should be a good event. So is there anything else anybody wants to mention before we do the closing?
Worthy President, I would just like to thank you for the hospitality and the fellowship this evening. I don't get to Riverton in person anymore, and I don't often get on one of your Zooms because I tend to have another event on Fridays that disrupts my schedule. So I was happy that I could be here tonight. I was happy that I could assist you in all the history project stuff. As I find more, and I know that I have more, I will send it your way so that you can share it with your members. And just to kind of throw in a little bit of an advertisement, we are putting together a history book on all of the Granges in Connecticut to come out at state session in 2025. The bulk of it, the information has already been submitted to us. We're in the process now of starting the layout and the design of the book. That will be this year, and it'll go to print next spring. So we'll be taking pre-orders for it. It's going to be about 800 pages. It's a coffee table book. It's a big book. It's going to have a lot of pictures, a lot of historical stuff, and it's going to have something on every single Grange from number 1 to number 213. And also it will have biographies of many of the members. We're trying to get at least one biography from every Grange of members who have done a lot for those Granges. Having a little problem in some of the older Granges like Barkhamsted, which we don't have a lot of information on. But we'll have a profile of all the state presidents. We'll have profiles of prominent members. It's going to be a really cool book, and we're very excited putting it all together. And if you have something that you would like to submit for the book, be it pictures or clippings or anything, now is the time to get it to us. And if you can come across that 75th anniversary script that Peggy put together, I would love to have that, because that would be a great point for me to start with putting Riverton's biography together. So again, thank you for the fellowship and the hospitality, and hopefully I'll get to see you all again soon. Thank you.
Well, Terry, thank you for all you do. And I was so pleased, again, the resolution passed honoring you at state session this past time.
Well, thank you
And,
for that. I appreciate it very much.
You do so much for our state Grange and all the Granges. And anytime we ask for something, you are just right there to help us. Now, I did hear that you kept your aunt on the phone for 2.5 hours the other night. Terry's
both aunts.
Terry's
one night and one the next.
Yeah, Terry's aunt is my second grade teacher who runs my kitchen at my senior center. So we are Joan Smith, a very incestuous community here. We're all related one way or another.
And I am a 5th generation Grange member.
Yes.
So, and lucky enough to have 2 state masters, or 2 of my uncles. So
yes. Yes. And we saw your partner in service walk through the window a little bit ago. So who's a state
yeah,
Grange
he just
member.
got home from work, so he's running around.
Excellent. Okay, let's close then. Worthy Vice President, are the labors of the day completed?
They are, worthy President.
As there's no more work for us today, the steward will see that our implements are properly secured for the night, and we're going to close the Bible. Brothers and sisters, as we are again to separate and mingle with the world, let us not forget the precepts of our order. Let us add dignity to labor and in our dealings with our fellow men. Be honest, be just, and fear not.
Let us
We must avoid intemperance and eating, drinking, in language, and also in work and recreation. And whatever we do, strive to do well. Let us be quiet, peaceful citizens, feeding the hungry, helping the fatherless and the widows, and keeping ourselves unspotted from the world. Patrons, I'm about to close the Grange. Please assist with a salutation that signifies a good patron places faith in God, nurtures hope, dispenses charity, and is noted for fidelity. Worthy Vice President, please declare the Grange closed.
I proclaim this Grange duly closed. I need to grab my book next time.
I proclaim the Grange closed until again lawfully open again in faith and hope and charity and with fidelity. So be it.
So be it.
Yeah.
May the divine master protect, guide, and bless us all now and evermore. Amen. The labors of the day are closed. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you had a pleasurable evening, and we've really provoked a lot of good memories. And 1 month, Lecturer Renee, we have to have one on pets because we've seen Tim Sweeney's pet, we've seen Dawn's pet, my dogs walked by. So I see Natalie has a picture of our dog on the couch. So we'll have to do a pet one for all us pet people.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.